Welcome to another edition of Smart Chat here on YouTube.com. Super Bowl has come and gone, and geez, I don't know about you guys, but what a dud of a Super Bowl it was. All week long you heard about Peyton Manning, his legacy, Sherman, his rant that he had the 2 weeks prior, lease mode, and you are thinking to yourself, you're waiting for the first play, and enough already about all the storylines. You just wanted the game to begin, and when it finally began, seemed like right after that first play, all the wind was knocked out of the Broncos' sails, so to speak, and Seattle got that swag. 1 and 2 in Super Bowl were Peyton Manning after this game. He had lost his second Super Bowl, Seattle, the champions, and it all began with Russell Wilson and the defense. The youngest team in the league is now the Super Bowl. And then you have Pete Carroll, who with the Super Bowl win, he's one of the few coaches who has taken a team to the college championship and won, and also the NFL. He always told his team, you've got to believe. And speaking of you've got to believe that Pete Carroll was aware that the Meadowlands necessarily coming into this game hasn't treated him that well. Who could forget the spike play against my Miami Dolphins when he was his coach? The game had an interesting start where Joe Namath, fur coat and all, messes up the coin toss before getting a call off heads or tails. Game begins for a snap. Manning takes a step to go under center. Manny Ramirez snaps ball right over Manning's shoulder. Recovered in the end zone for a safety 12 seconds in the game by the Seattle Seahawks. Manny being Manny. This time, not that Randy Ramirez that you're thinking of. I think, honestly, looking at the game, I think it was put away in the second quarter. A pick six by the Seahawks by Malcolm Smith. And that was the Seahawks' lone defensive touchdown. But don't worry, the Seahawks obviously had many touchdowns in the game. And because of that pick six, Mr. Malcolm Smith was now your Super Bowl MVP. Seattle's defense put together, I think, one of the most impressive Super Bowl efforts in the bowl game history. The team also benefited from a long Percy Harvin touchdown return. Though Wilson continued to make plays, edging his name in history. 200 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, and a 70% completion percentage throughout that game. And in some ways, I think, after looking at this game, one could argue that stats are meaningless. Look at the box score, as I can't speak English, and one might argue that despite it being a blowout, Peyton Manning played arguably a pretty good game. Reality is, however, was that the inability to complete passes, albeit were for naught, against a superior opponent in the Seattle Seahawks. Here's a stat for you. Manning had 33 completions. Super Bowl record. That's right. Digest that. Seahawks simply weren't willing, I think, to give up, or to give up or let up on the Broncos, whichever word you want to use. Wilson found all his receivers. Baldwin, one of the NFL's top slot receivers, beat up Champ Bailey, who's undoubtedly a future Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, whether it be right or wrong, Manning will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. But he will always have to continue to hear criticism where his legacy is questioned and him falling short in crucial games. And this will again always happen when his legacy is brought up. Just to give you an idea of how hard it is to win Super Bowls, not many players are able to do it, much less two. Eli Manning has two. So I always kind of laugh when I hear the argument that, for example, in New York here, that Eli Manning is not a good quarterback, but yet he has won 2 Super Bowls for you. How many quarterbacks have won 2 Super Bowls in very little tries? One of the best quarterbacks in the game, Peyton Manning, can't win 2. Dan Marino has never won 1 at all. So, game was a dud. It was a blowout. Sales were knocked out pretty much from the beginning of the game. Kind of wanted to end it, with some of my top Super Bowl plays. I think 2 that stick out are the helmet catch by David Tyree with the Giants against the Patriots. And another one was the Titans falling short. Haven't made a video in a couple of days and I can't speak English. The Titans falling short, rather, about a yard against the Rams. So, that was just my analysis of the Super Bowl. What were your thoughts of the Super Bowl? Did you enjoy it? A dud? Hey, the way I see it, I was rooting for the Seahawks. If it ain't my Dolphins in the AFC, then it's no one at all. So, until next time, later, adios, and I can't speak English today, but don't worry, more videos coming up, remaining of the week. Until next time, later.